So I'm still fiddling with the linkages and the throttle pedal and things like that. I think I've got it all sorted out now. The reason I've been playing with it is because the special cam that goes on the end of the throttle control lever arrived. So I have fitted that now, and it turned out to be quite a bit thicker than I expected. It's a bit hard to see, but you can sort of see the thickness of it in there. And the reason it needs to be quite wide is because this arm that runs on it, of course, moves in an arc, which means the end of it is moving in and out just a little bit. So you need a bit of width there. So as the arm goes up and down, it can slide over the top of that cam, both that direction and forwards and backwards. But I got that all set up. I had to make longer studs to go in here, and I made up some new spacers. These are just steel, and then I nickel plated them just to keep them all nice and tidy. The little cam came with a sort of brass washer and a special spring washer. I'm not sure what they're actually called. They look like a spring washer, but they've got extra turns on them, so it loops around and then around again. And that provides a little bit of tension on the lever. And I've also put in some leather washers either side of the brass parts. They've been soaked in oil, and they just help to give a little bit more friction. Because these tubes are all running down inside each other, you need quite a bit of friction to hold everything in place, so that they don't move when you move each lever, and they don't move when you turn the steering wheel. So I think I've got that all set up correctly now. I also discovered that I wasn't quite getting wide open throttle, because this linkage was hitting the back edge of my bracket here. So I had to sort of file and grind that down to give me enough clearance. It's always worth checking that your full to the floor throttle is actually giving you full opening on the butterflies. It sounds obvious, but it's kind of a detail that's easy to overlook. And you need to fiddle with the linkage so that wide open really is wide open. So this, if you press the pedal now, that all works. I do need to replace the throttle return springs with slightly stronger ones. These are really the butterfly return springs. So you have got a return spring here. I believe it's a legal requirement that there are at least 2 springs. So I'll fit other springs there. The reason you need those is if any of these came loose, you want the throttle butterflies to close. So those springs would pull those closed. So that works pretty well. And up at this end, you can see the levers now. So this one is the advanced retard. That kind of works the same as it did before. And you can also see when I move this lever, this one doesn't move. There's enough friction to hold everything in place. And similarly, when you move the steering wheel, it doesn't move. And then this one is for the fast idle. So it's going to be hard to see. So it just opens it a little bit. You can see the lever going up and down there. Now, one problem I've noticed, or one sort of design quirk, I guess, is you can actually turn this lever too far and the cam will go over center. So we might be able to see that happen. There we go. And so now the throttle linkage is dropped off cam. It doesn't interfere with the throttle at all, that still works. And the way you can get it back, of course, is you just put your foot down on the throttle and then move it back. But it seems interesting there's no sort of stop or anything in here. I've had a look in the parts book, I can't see anything. I have seen on the forum somebody posted how they did it. They actually put a pin through the cam, and that stops up against one of these plates. But this is an original cam and it didn't have any holes or anything for a little pin like that. So the only thing I thought of was making a little tab or a little sort of washer or flat steel plate that goes underneath one of these with some little bent tabs on it to limit the motion. But for now, I think I'll just remember, sorry, I'll get this back. Just remember not to go too high on that lever. What else have I been doing? The radiator shell, I ended up finishing off the bottom, so these plates close off the bottom. It's all just been silver soldered, which went reasonably well. I do find silver soldering is one of those jobs which either it goes amazingly well and you get really beautiful joints, or it kind of goes okay and you get solid joints but they don't look very pretty. It ends up a bit lumpy, and that's what kind of happened in this case. I think just because it's quite hard for me to heat all the steel evenly, I used oxyacetylene because that was the easiest way with a very gentle flame. But that's okay, it's come out fine. I left this a little bit short by accident. When I first made this, I tried to make it in one piece, and that actually worked okay. I managed to get the bottom pieces with the flanges all folded up, but I forgot that this center piece curves out. So this piece needed to be longer. So in the end, I made it from 3 separate pieces. I put these in first, and then I made this to fit. And I had to cut that front edge to sort of follow the curve, the curve of this panel. You can see it kind of comes out and around. I've also just temporarily put in just this aluminium mesh. I've been playing around with painting it as well. You have to paint it from all angles to get good coverage, otherwise it doesn't cover very well. But I just wanted to see how durable it would be. You can get proper aluminium radiator paint, so I'll probably get some of that. But that'll do for now to fill up the hole in the middle. What else have I done? I also discovered how these are fitted on the originals. They're actually silver soldered to the housing, and then they're riveted, and the rivets are soldered because on an original one this all has to be watertight because the shell is the outside of the radiator. For now I've just fitted some it's like EVA foam that's just compressed just to hold that all in place. And I've also mocked up what the core needs to look like. So I've been researching this quite a bit, and I found a company down in Christchurch who can make me a modern style radiator to these specifications with a modern core. It's all going to be aluminium, it'll all be TIG welded, and it'll all be finished off nicely. I know there are people who are saying it's not right that I'm not doing it properly and getting a proper replica made. The reason I'm not doing that is, one, because of the cost. So the cost of doing that will be a lot, tens of thousands of dollars. So I have got some prices and things on them. Even just getting the core made is multiple thousands of dollars. And the actual cost ends up being half again of what I've already spent on the car. So this hasn't been a cheap project. I've spent a fair bit on it, and then to spend another over 50% again just for the radiator before I've got the car on the road, it seems a bit risky to me, because I still actually have to get the car registered and on the road. So that's why I'm going with this cheaper option for now. It's about 1/10 of the price. So it makes sense, and it means I can build the body around the shell. I can do all the bonnet panels, I can do absolutely everything, and I can get the car running properly and the engine going properly, and it'll be drivable. And I can get it all road legal, registered like that, and then work out if it's worth spending that extra 50% on top for that original radiator. And it's always going to be a replica. I'm not trying to make a fake real Brooklyns. So an original radiator, is it really going to make that much difference? So we'll see. The main aim is to get it going and not end up spending tens of thousands of dollars to do it. So this is all very, very tight. my cardboard model actually ended up being slightly oversized, which is good, because then I know the original, when it's made, will fit properly. It will go together. So it'll all kind of go together, something like that. You can see that sort of pushes the grill to where it needs to be. And it should all just fit. Whoops, this is all hot glued together, and the hot glue hasn't given way, the cardboard has. But that shows where the inlet and outlet pipes are, and I will put it on the car because it kind of shows how little space there is for everything on this car. With it on the car, you get some idea of how little room there is. Another thing I modified when I made the bottom was I actually had this a little too wide, this piece here. So I ended up moving it out, or rather into the radiator, another 1/4 of an inch, which gave me the right sort of clearance around the dynamo here. I was just a little bit worried about, I don't know when this is on the road, how much movement there is between these things. Presumably not a lot, because these are the engine mounting rubbers. There's just kind of a rubber cone in here that the engine sits on. So everything's really bolted pretty strongly together. It would be flex in the chassis that would cause relative movement between these, I think. So there's a good amount of clearance there now, so that should be fine. The water inlet has to line up here on the top. That's going to be kind of interesting because the actual pipes, I have a modern reproduction one. This is probably an original one. It's pretty corroded, but it gives you an idea. Also, somebody polished it up. That sits on there, kind of like that. But you can see there's a bit of a mismatch in the pipe heights. So what I'm going to have to do is I can probably lift this up. I can make or extend one of these. Because I have to cut it anyway, it might be possible for me to cut it and extend it to lift it up the height I need. Or else the other thing I could do is machine up a new base. That might be better, actually. Machine up a piece that sits on here, a little step that fits in. And then, of course, these are held in with these yokes, with these things. So the good thing about that is it's easy enough for me to make up a new stud. I'll probably get some stainless steel to do that. And I can make up a longer stud to make up for the extra height I need. But that will get that top pipe lining up nicely. And then at the bottom, we need our pipe again. I have 2 of these because it isn't possible to get the inlet one, I think. But that goes on there. Kind of like that. So again, there is a mismatch in the pipes. So maybe the way I can fix that is probably get a little bit of flexible pipe. So this can be cut off here, and you've got a little piece of flexible pipe that joins those two. And that makes that all nice and close. The other thing is, this is all a thermosiphon engine, and I do actually have this little tiny booster pump. It's very tiny. So these are Davies Craig pumps. Well, they're the people who sell them. The pump is actually made by Bosch. This one will do 15 litres per minute. And I've got no idea how much you actually need. The good thing about this is the smallest one. They do other little pumps that go up in capacity. And there is plenty of room down here to fit a little pump and sort of hide that. Because I don't have the proper Brooklands water pump, which requires a special casting. So the Brooklands water pump is actually down here. This is where it lives. But I can't get one of those at the moment. It's not like a part you can just go buy off the shelf. So until I can sort one of those out, a little electric pump down here may be a sensible idea. And to do that, I'll just have to have a takeoff, I guess, on the other pipe and run hoses to this somehow, and there'll be another inlet to take one of these. And if I don't use it, I can just block off that inlet. And the other thing is going to be a radiator cap. Now, because this isn't pressurized, I don't actually need to run a pressurized cap. So what I'm going to do is I'll get them to fit effectively just a bung in the top of the radiator, because all I need to be able to do is open that up so I can fill it with water. It may need a vent as well, obviously, to stop it pressurizing, but that should all be doable. So that's coming along. So the next thing will be get the radiator being made is going to take 3 weeks, something like that. So I'll let them start working on that. Next is drawing up the body. I keep putting that off, so I'm still figuring out the best way to actually do that to get the stations. But once I've got the actual cutouts for the different bits of the body, I can then start looking at ordering timber. The timber is interesting as well. So somebody suggested to me looking at a native timber. So there is a timber that was used in New Zealand for coach building. It's Southland beech, or also called silver beech. So I did look into getting some of that, and it turns out that ends up costing 50% more than the imported ash. So I could get it, but given I can get the ash relatively easily, I know where I can get it from, I know how much they charge for it, and I know that is what people have used and it will work, I'm probably going to go with that rather than spending an extra 50%. The prices vary, of course. It's one of those commodity type things. The prices I was being quoted last time I checked was, I think it was around $4,000 per cubic meter New Zealand for the ash, and about $6,000 per cubic meter for the Southland beech. I rang a few places to try and find out if they supplied it and get quotes, and most of them didn't actually get back to me. So I don't know if it's easily available or what the story is there, but ash is what they used originally, so that's what I'm going to go with. But yeah, that's getting there. Like I say, I think the mesh, it's almost impossible for me to recreate what that pattern looks like. This is the original, and you can see it's not a honeycomb, and it's not quite a diamond pattern. These are separate vertical sort of squiggles that go down. A colleague of mine had a good idea, which was maybe I could 3D print something like a fake thing, but looking at this now and looking at how fine this is, that's not going to work. This is just too narrow. So this is the hack job radiator that was on 8075 originally. It's an original saloon shell, obviously, like this, that's been cut down and hacked around. And this is just a thin fake grill on the front of this. There's something behind that, and you can see how they've just sort of soldered that in place. And that's completely the wrong pattern as well. So I think once it's painted black and it's behind the stone guard, nobody, unless they know, is going to notice any difference. So yeah, that will be interesting. I was thinking also about how you would go about modifying this. And anyone who's ever done any soldering, or in particular unsoldering, desoldering things will know it's not easy to actually get solder joints apart, because this is soldered all the way around, and all the way, if we just pick this up, all the way around here. You can see this has been repaired. This is more modern. This is soldered all the way around. The only way you would be able to get that apart is to heat the whole thing up, and it would all just completely fall apart, I imagine. I don't think there would be any way you could get this out without it coming to pieces. Maybe they've got some clever way of doing it. I don't actually know. But yeah, I suspect if you were going to take this apart, the whole thing's going to fall apart. Somebody was asking about the original badge on there, and that's what's on that one. So I'm pretty sure that's original Riley. Interestingly, this one, which weighs a ton, it doesn't have a badge, but it's got a date, which is very hard to read. Possibly 68. Looks like August 68. But you can see this one as well. It's soldered all the way around. And you can see where this has been all soldered. The other thing I need to do is make one of these strips. So I should be able to get some, if I can get a suitable profile steel. It's quite thick steel. It's about 1.5 millimeters thick, or about that, with a little edge bent on it, and then shaped, obviously. And this is where the special little slots are that the bonnet lacing, thanks for people who pointed out to me that's what it was called, that's where that threads through. And I have actually discovered you can get that in New Zealand relatively easily. So that's where I'm at with that. I know it's not correct, but it's the practical approach for now. And I think it'll look all right.